Hey, crime enthusiasts! Welcome to our brand new channel, where we'll be exploring intriguing and chilling true crime mysteries. I'm your host, Farzan, and I'm thrilled to embark on this journey with all of you. Today, we will discuss the Noida double murders, also known as the Arushi Talwar case. This case is infamous and puzzling, considered one of India's most notorious. The focus is usually on Arushi Talwar, but it's essential to remember that Hemraj Banjade, a 45-year-old Nepali man and domestic servant for the Talwar family, was also a victim. Unfortunately, Hemraj is often overlooked in discussions about this case. Let's provide some context. Arushi Talwar, born on May 24, 1994, was the cherished daughter of Rajesh and Nupur Talwar, both successful dentists. Arushi, a shy yet lively teenager, was popular at school and had a loving relationship with her parents. The Talwars had struggled with infertility for 5 years before finally conceiving Arushi, making her the light of their lives. They owned a dental clinic in Sector 27 of Noida, along with their friends Anita and Prafel Durrani, who were also dentists. Additionally, Rajesh worked as the head of the dental department at Fortis Hospital and taught at the ITS Dental College in Greater Noida. With their busy schedules, they hired domestic help to manage their household chores. On May 15, 2008, Nepal Talwar went to work at the clinic until 1 p.m., then picked up Arushi from school. After having lunch with Nupur and her sister, Nupur went to work at Fortis Hospital from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Rajesh worked at various locations that day and returned home around 9:30 p.m., accompanied by his driver, Umesh Sharma. Umesh parked the car and handed the keys to Hemraj, the domestic servant. That was the last time anyone outside the household saw Arushi or Hemraj. The Talwars had a routine of spending time in their bedrooms to unwind before sleep. Arushi would stay up talking to friends until around 1 a.m. On that night, Rajesh decided to respond to emails but realized the internet router was off. He asked Nupur to turn it on, which required entering Arushi's room since the router was located there. Nupur found Arushi reading a book, turned on the router, and closed the door behind her. At the same time, Rajesh answered a call from a U.S. number and continued working on emails until 11:41 p.m. Arushi's friend tried contacting her but received no response, raising concern. The following morning, Parthi Mandel, the Talwar's weekly housekeeper, arrived at 6:01 a.m. and found the outer gate locked. She tried to open it but couldn't, so she called out to Nupur, who explained that Hemraj must have gone out. Parthi insisted on entering but was eventually asked to wait. Nupur called Hemraj but received no answer, further heightening the suspicion. Eventually, Nupur agreed to throw the keys from the balcony to Parthi, who could enter the apartment. However, before throwing the keys, Nupur decided to try opening the door one more time and found it unlocked. She informed Parthi, who entered the apartment. Upon entering, Parthi saw the Talwars in distress, having just discovered Arushi's lifeless body in her room. Arushi had been murdered, with her throat deeply slashed and signs of head injuries. Her body was covered with a blanket, and her school bag and plush toys were placed on top. Blood was present in the room and on the outer side of the bedroom door, suggesting the door was open during the attack. Parthi left after offering her assistance, and the Talwars began notifying friends and family instead of immediately contacting the police. A neighbor, informed of the situation, called the police, who arrived at 7:15 a.m. By that time, numerous people had gathered in the apartment. The police found the crime scene heavily contaminated due to the influx of people. They gathered fingerprints, but found them smudged and inconclusive. Arushi's body was swiftly sent for a post-mortem examination, which revealed that she had suffered a fatal injury to her brain, caused by blunt force trauma to her forehead. Her throat had been slit with precision, possibly using a surgical or cookery knife. Although there were no conclusive signs of sexual assault, her clothes had been tampered with. The investigation initially focused on Hemraj as the primary suspect. Meanwhile, Hemraj's whereabouts were unknown. The police interrogated Hemraj's son-in-law but obtained no valuable information. A team was dispatched to Nepal to locate Hemraj, taking his son-in-law along, but their efforts were unsuccessful. On the 17th of May, Hemraj's body was discovered on the apartment's terrace. Due to the advanced state of decomposition, identification was challenging. Only one of Hemraj's friends could positively identify the body. Throughout the investigation, there were several questionable actions. The Talwars cleaned the apartment, including the crime scene, before the police arrived. They even moved Arushi's mattress to a neighbor's terrace, resulting in potential bloodstains on the staircase and terrace door. The police failed to examine the terrace until prompted by a retired officer who noticed the bloodstains and convinced them to break the lock. There, they discovered Hemraj's body. Hemraj met a similar fate as Arushi, with a cause of death being blunt force trauma to the back of his head. His neck was also slit posthumously with precision, suggesting a professional act. After Hemraj's murder, his body was dragged 20 feet across the terrace, leaving drag marks. Evidence of dragging was also seen on his elbows and the back of his arms. The perpetrators propped him against an air conditioning unit and used a grate from the unit to partially cover his body. A mattress from the neighbor's terrace, connected to the Talwar's terrace by a wall and mesh, had been taken up there. The killers had covered Hemraj's body with a bedsheet and concealed it with an air conditioning grate, making it difficult to see him. Hemraj's blood was found only on the terrace and slightly on a scotch bottle discovered on the dining table, indicating that he was likely murdered on the terrace. Due to the hot weather and the time Hemraj spent on the terrace, his body was significantly decomposed during the 28-hour gap between the discovery of Arushi's body and his own. Hemraj's autopsy revealed no traces of food in his system, with only a small amount of liquid found, suggesting he hadn't consumed anything. In contrast, Arushi had food in her system, having eaten dinner with her family on the night of the incident. Hemraj's untouched dinner plate was found in his room, served at 10 p.m. The discovery of Hemraj's body changed the direction of the investigation, as it became evident that Hemraj couldn't have been responsible for Arushi's murder. One of the initial suspects was Vishnu Sharma, the domestic help for the Talwars for 10 years, who hailed from Nepal. However, he was ruled out as a suspect since he was in Nepal during the time of the murders. The police faced challenges due to a heavily contaminated crime scene and mishandled investigation. Only 2 viable fingerprints were found, but they didn't match any suspects or family members. There were no signs of forced entry into the apartment. The middle gate, leading to the Talwar's apartment, was latched rather than locked, indicating a potential exit by someone who latched it from the outside. Hemraj and Nepal had separate sets of keys, with Nepal keeping them on her bedside table. The sequence of events involving the gate, keys, and the housekeeper's attempt to enter the apartment became suspicious. The key to the terrace was never found. The internet router usage also raised questions, as it was turned off and on during specific times. Both Hemraj and Arushi's mobile phones disappeared after the murders, with suspicious calls and activity reported. The whiskey bottle found on the dining table had blood from Hemraj and Arushi, as well as unidentified DNA. The cabinet containing the bottle was hidden, suggesting familiarity with the apartment. The fact that Arushi's face was covered and there were no signs of forced entry indicated that the killers knew the Talwars well and had access to the house. The doctor who performed Arushi's autopsy altered the report multiple times, creating doubts about potential sexual assault. The police arrested Rajesh Talwar based on circumstantial evidence, pushing the narrative of honor killings and an affair involving Rajesh. However, he was released 50 days later due to a lack of evidence. The CBI took over the investigation and shifted focus to other suspects, including Krishna Thattarai, a dental assistant who had a confrontation with Rajesh prior to the murders. Krishna and 2 other Nepali men were subjected to narcoanalysis tests, resulting in conflicting confessions. The new theory implicated these men in a crime that involved a gathering in Hemraj's room and attempted sexual assault on Arushi. However, the absence of DNA evidence, contradictions, lack of witness accounts, and potential torture during interrogations cast doubt on the validity of these confessions. The investigation suffered from contamination and police negligence, leading to the destruction of 90% of the evidence. The case became highly sensationalized by the media, which influenced public opinion and pressured the police to solve it quickly. The narcoanalysis test conducted on him was anonymously leaked online, revealing raw footage where he repeatedly asserted his innocence. Additionally, the woman who questioned Krishna Thattarai during his narcoanalysis test was later dismissed from her position due to falsifying her date of birth. There was evidence suggesting that she manipulated videos of the tests she conducted, tortured subjects, and raised doubts about thousands of her narcoanalysis tests. Vijay Mendel claimed that he was coerced and bribed to falsely testify as an eyewitness to the murders. The defense lawyer for the three men also alleged that the CBI attempted to bribe Rash Kamishima, promising fame if he accused Krishna Thattarai of committing the murders. However, Kamishima refused to comply. The CBI retrieved a kitchen knife with blood on it from Thattarai's family home and presented 8 experts who believed it could be the murder weapon. However, it was later discovered that the blood on the knife was not human. As the narco-analysis tests were deemed inadmissible, the men contended that they were coerced and physically abused into confessing. They also had alibis for the night of the murders. Consequently, the CBI had to release all 3 suspects. Subsequently, the CBI redirected its focus toward the Talwars, seizing a golf club from their attic and suggesting it could have been the murder weapon. They also claimed that the neck cuts could have been inflicted using a surgical knife, implying the Talwars' medical background. In 2010, the CBI closed the case, naming Rajesh Talwar as the prime suspect due to circumstantial evidence, but lacking physical evidence, and a clear motive to press charges. They theorized that Rajesh had hidden Hemraj's body on the terrace with the intention of disposing of it later, creating the impression that Hemraj had murdered Arushi and fled. However, the theory becomes confusing considering that the Talwars immediately invited numerous people to their house after discovering Arushi's body. This raises questions about Rajesh's alleged plan to secretly dispose of the body. In January 2011, the Talwars petitioned to close the case, but it was rejected. On January 25, 2011, Rajesh was attacked outside the court premises, with his face, head, and fingers slashed by an unknown assailant. In February 2011, the CBI reversed its stance, stating that it had sufficient evidence to charge the Talwars. Rajesh and Nupur Talwar were arrested, and their trial commenced on May 11, 2013. During the trial, the Talwars requested additional DNA testing on the bloody handprint found near Hemraj's body, the 2 fingerprints on the whiskey bottle, and the golf club. Surprisingly, the requests were denied, which seemed peculiar considering the need for thorough DNA testing to establish guilt beyond reasonable doubt. The Talwars' defense team argued against their involvement in the murders. Hemraj's wife testified during the trial, mentioning that Rajesh had a tendency to get angry over minor issues. There were unconfirmed reports that Hemraj had expressed concerns about his safety and the safety of his loved ones to a social worker. The trial concluded on November 25, 2013, with both Rajesh and Nupur Talwar found guilty of the murders, destruction of evidence, and misleading the investigation. They were sentenced to life imprisonment. After her husband's death, Hemraj's wife experienced significant financial hardship and bedridden for months. In an interview with Open Magazine, she vehemently denied any suggestion that Hemraj would harm Arushi, expressing sadness over Arushi's death and emphasizing Hemraj's innocence. The Talwars challenged their conviction in January 2014. Eventually, on October 12, 2017, the Allahabad High Court acquitted them, overturning the guilty verdict. The court stated that the prosecution had failed to establish the case against the accused beyond reasonable doubt. The Talwars believed they were victims of media trial and deserved the benefit of the doubt, rather than being convicted solely based on suspicion. Both the CBI and Hemraj's family filed petitions to challenge this decision, leading to India's Supreme Court agreeing to hear their joint appeal in 2018. The case remains unresolved, and opinions vary on whether the Talwars or someone else is responsible for the murders. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. If you found this video entertaining, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button right now. By subscribing, you'll never miss any of the exciting content coming your way. If you have any video suggestions or topics you'd like me to cover in future videos, let me know in the comments below. Finally, if you enjoyed this video and think others would too, don't hesitate to share it with your friends and family. Together we can grow this incredible community.